Okay. Good morning. My name's Polly, and I'm an alcoholic. And glad you're here. Glad you're here. I always say that the hardest thing, I believe, for an alcoholic, or maybe people in general, but especially alcoholics, because our nature is to be selfish and self-centered, is to have successful relationships. And certainly successful, intimate relationships. But it's a struggle. The book talks about we were having trouble with personal relationships. That's what it says in the bedevilments. And then in the 12 and 12, it says we're people who are incapable of forming a true partnership with another human being or another person. I can't remember exactly how it goes. But what it's indicating is that we're people that have a difficult time with relationships. So Dave and I, when we got married, I had been married before. I had been married for 22 years before. And I also belong to the Fellowship of Al-Anon, so I suffer really well. And I never knew how to have any kind of intimacy. And I always thought that intimacy just meant sex. That's what intimacy was. And today I have learned that intimacy, if we take the word and just go, into me see, let me show you me, is to be intimate. And a lot of times the hardest thing that we do in romantic relationships is discuss intimately our sexuality. And there seems to be two problems in romantic relationships that crop up all the time, and that's sex and money. Those two things seem to if a marriage is going to be destroyed, it's usually between those two items. Not always, but a lot of times it's those two things. I'm not sexually satisfied, he doesn't make enough money, or whatever is going on. But what happens is the reason that we have these problems is that we fail to talk about them. We fail to discuss these problems. And so consequently, a lot of times we end up feeling frustrated, unfulfilled, and unloved and unwanted. And I'm just going to read a little bit here because instead of just saying it, because it's just easier for me. If ever there was a topic of which you could gather lots of opinions, it would be love. For some, love is a decision. I just decide to love you. Cold and clear. You fulfill what I want. That's it. Maybe I have the love of money and you have money. Maybe I have the love of prestige and you have prestige. And that's all I really want in a relationship. And there are relationships like that. That these are the things that people want, and if they have that, that's what they're happy with. For others, it's a feeling. If the feeling's not there, neither is love. For others, For still others, it's a mystical experience of union and fulfillment. The hard, cold fact is that no matter what love means to your partner, if he or she does not experience that love, the relationship is in trouble. If whatever is going on, that fulfillment is not there, then the other person is always in a state of frustration. But so how are we going to know what it is, and what is it does love mean to you? What do I need to do for you to make you feel better? And what happens is with people like you and me, we're looking to be fulfilled without having to say what it takes to fulfill us. You're supposed to guess. You're supposed to just know. If you love me, you would just know what makes me feel good. You would know what I need from you. And what happens is that we end up in a state of frustration, and then we think, I used to use this term all the time, my husband is not emotionally available to me. And I don't really know what that means. All I know is that what was going on is he didn't fulfill me. And then Dave and I get married, and what Dave and I wanted, I'm Dave's fourth wife, and he's my second husband. But what we wanted to do was get married and stay married. It's like getting sober. We can get sober. The trick is to stay sober. So what we wanted to do was be married and stay married. And neither one of us knew how to do that. Both of us knew how to take a hostage, but we didn't know how to have a marriage. You know, that I want you to fulfill my needs and my wants and my aspirations. And that's the fantasy that we have, or I had, about relationships. If you love me, you will just instinctively know what I need. When the reality is that's not true at all. I don't have a clue, as much as I love Dave. And love, it changes over the years. You know, it's just so full of lust and sex and all of this stuff in the younger years, and you just can't get enough of each other. And then all of a sudden, well, that wasn't that great, you know, and you get into these feelings, you know, after a while. And so what happens is if we don't have a means to communicate with each other, then we start to have a problem. And what happens is that this is usually the way we communicate, or at least the way he and I were communicating. And when I talk to other people, they say this is the way they were communicating. So I don't want to generalize too much. But what would happen is that I would be in this state of frustration, and he would say to me, "What's wrong?" "Nothing." You know, nothing's wrong. But what happens is, instead of me acting like an adult, which I did not know how to do, and come to him and say, "You know, I'm a little frustrated. We need to talk about some things." Because these are difficult subjects. Very difficult subjects. To talk about sex is difficult. To talk about money is difficult. Those are two things that put a lot of stress on relationships. But it's really important that we do both. So what I would like to just talk about is how do we go about that? And one of the things is there's 3 questions that you can, like I said, get these notes off the internet, or you can get the CDs in order to listen. But what happens is we need to find out about each other. And I need to know some things about Dave. I need to know, what does it mean to you to be loved? What does love mean to you? Does love mean being held, being, paid attention to, lots of sex? That's usually, what guys like, a lot of sex. So does that what you mean? What does love mean to you? Does love mean that I cook you a good meal? I keep your, what would make you feel loved? What kind of little things make you feel loved? And if I find out about that, what happens is I am going to feel more love, and I'm going to feel better about myself if I find out what you need to be loved. Now, hopefully, we're in the same program, so he's going to do the same for me. See? Because we're in a program and we're going to learn about this. Because, see, what we learn in Alcoholics Anonymous is that, I had to hit a bottom sober behind relationships and sex. Because I just knew if you just loved me enough, if you just give me enough, I'd be okay. But I found out it's not in the getting, it's in the giving. It's when I'm willing to give to you what you need to fulfill you. It's when I start to feel that feeling of whatever that spiritual connection is with the person you love. Now, it doesn't seem like that's the way it ought to be. What it seems like is if you give it all to me, then I'm going to feel better. But we don't work like that, because we're spiritual beings. We may be alcoholics who are selfish and self-centered and have all this stuff going on with us, this illness of alcoholism, or being affected by alcoholism. But the reality is we're spiritual beings, and we're having a human experience. And when we get everything we want or think we want, it's not enough. It doesn't satisfy. So the other is what does it take for you to feel loved? What do I have to do to make you feel loved? What actions do I have to take? Maybe one of the things my son says to me, Dave will be downstairs, I'll be upstairs, and I'll holler from upstairs downstairs to him. To him, feeling love is, don't holler. And when I'm at his house, we were like 2 floors apart at his house, and he walked downstairs to tell me something. He said, see, Mom, don't holler. Well, I don't know if that bothers Dave that much because he hasn't told me, but my son did. So see, this is not just with your husband relationships, it's with all relationships. But James is recovering in AA, and he's saying, please don't yell at me from floor to floor. And see, I just don't want to walk up the stairs. So I'm yelling, come eat. And so now I'm so grateful that he told me how he feels, because now I am aware, because he's told me, that it bothers him and it makes him feel bad for me to yell from one floor to the next to have him, if I need his attention. What are you asking of me in this regard? So what are you asking of me? What is it? And then can I give it to you? So it is a matter of communicating with each other. And these are hard conversations. But if we start to have them, and they're going to start awkward at first, because when you start talking about these things, they're awkward. But let's get some guidelines. What is it that we all need? What are our needs in a relationship? What does it mean to you to be loved? So Dave and I got together, and with some help of some good books and some other people who are professionals, we came up with some of the things that he and I talk about. And the first thing is Dave said, what is it that you really need? And both of us needed, the top of the list was we both needed to feel safe. Need to be safe. I need to know that if I'm going to talk to you and if I'm going to tell you how I feel, that I'm going to be safe and that you're not going to hurt me. Feeling safe has to do with sensing a freedom from abuse. The minimal requirement is to sense that I will not be hurt here. That I won't, in other words, if I'm going to tell you how I feel, I know that you will listen to me. And I trust that you're not going to say, well, that's just stupid. What do you mean? And make me feel unsafe or abused. And I feel that way in my relationship. I'm safe. Dave is safe for me. And if I have to talk to him, and a lot of times, even after 28 years of marriage, I'll come to him, and maybe it's about money, maybe it's about slothingness, maybe it's about any kind of thing. I need to talk to you about this because it disturbs me. And I know that even though he may not like what I have to say, he's not going to hurt me. And he's going to listen, And he may have to get up and walk around a little bit and then come back to me, but he's not going to hurt me. So, and I feel that today. I need to feel defended. Being defended means having the sense that I am not alone against the world. This doesn't mean that your partner has to agree with you on everything, but it does mean that, agree or not, your partner won't turn against you or side with others in a disrespectful way. I've watched other couples, this happen to other couples, that the wife will state something or the husband will state something and the other one fires at them. And they feel like, oh my gosh, or the person sides with someone else instead of, honey, I may not agree with you about that. I mean, Dave and I have disagreed on like political issues, but it's okay to agree to disagree. But I still know no matter what, he respects my opinion and he defends me. He doesn't go against me. Supported, which is what we need. This is the greatest thing that AA gives us, is support. And feeling supported means having the sense that your partner is offering you encouragement, not just coming to your side during the hard times. And one of the things that Dave and I are very different people. In fact, we say that the only thing that we have in common is AA. We don't have a lot in common. I sponsor a lot of people. I'm really involved in my grandchildren. I like to go take care of them. I like to do a lot of stuff, and Dave supports me being gone to do that. You go be the very best Polly you can be. And he supports me. Now, Dave likes to backpack and go on long kayaking trips and all outdoors guys. Go to Yosemite for a month and camp out up there and do all the stuff that he does. And I support him in doing that because I don't want to do it, but I'm glad he wants to do it. So we support, we were having this was happening today. I support Dave talking with Mass and this stuff that just goes right over my head. I'm delighted that they're having the conversation, but I don't need to be in it. So I just kind of say, you guys, I'll go finish getting dressed. But I'm delighted you guys are having the conversation. But support that because I love that he's interested in all that. And I'm supportive of it. It doesn't mean that I have to be in it in order to support him. Belonging, a sense of belonging, being included. And even though I don't want to be in the conversation, Mass and Dave included me, and I felt I belonged. I chose not to be there. But I didn't feel excluded or like I was ignored. When a conversation is going on that I'm not interested in, or if he's doing something he includes me in it, and it's my choice whether to be in it or not. Cared about. Feeling cared about is the same as feeling nurtured, which means being told through certain actions or events, all the way from the giving of inexpensive cards to being held, to making passionate love, that you occupy an important place in your partner's life. To know that I'm special. Dave made me feel special this morning when he said I would do anything for her. Or in front of you, to tell me that he loves me, and for me to tell you that I love and respect my husband, so that he knows that I care about him, and I treat him as if I care about him. Accepted. I like to be accepted for who I am. And we were talking about that on the way here today, of how we just accept people where they're at. We're all different. And if he changed to be like what I think I want him to be, I wouldn't like him anymore because I fell in love with him this way. And a lot of times, and Dave was the one who came to me with that because I was trying to make him change. And he said, Polly, you always want to change me. And he says, I love you and accept you just the way you are. I wouldn't change a hair on your head. So he's the one that helped me see that makes me feel so good that you feel that way. So I stopped trying to. Dave likes outdoor clothes and Patagonia and boots and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, God, wouldn't this look nice on you? It's not my style, and it's those kind of things so Dave is good in this, Marymount outdoor clothes. This is like an outdoor shirt that he's wearing inside, but it's like these are his kind of things. And I'm kind of prissy, and so I have to accept him the way he is, because the reality is I am a woman who wants a man's man. But then on the other hand, I want him to be real emotional and have a real feminine side and all of this kind of stuff. And I found out, I either got him this way. I can't have it always. So I have to go, if I want to have a touchy-feely conversation, I need to go do that with a sponsee, my sponsor, or a girlfriend. Because I'm not going to get it from him. Touchy-feely is not what I'm going to get. Dave's going to give you a hug, but it's going to be, it's not going to be a really gushy hug. So this is the things that I accept.
Gushy?
So what I've learned to be, so how do we work these things out? These are the things I need. So what I do in order to get the things I want is I give them. I give Dave a safe place where he's not abused. I give those things to him. I give him a safe place to share whatever it is he needs to share so that we can have an honest relationship and he's not afraid of me. And the way this happened, Dave and I were married about 6 years, and that's when we started going to therapy. When we were married about 6 years, and one day I said I was noticing that he was hiding things from me, and so I said, "Why do you hide these things from me?" And he says, "Polly, I can't stand your reaction. You get so angry, I can't stand your reaction." And I looked at him and I said, I need to know the truth. Even if it makes me angry, I need to know the truth. And so what happened is I started working on my character defect of being so short-tempered that I reacted. And believe me, this did not heal quickly. But now, when there's a problem, and most of the time it's about money or something like that he was afraid to talk to me about, he's not afraid to talk to me about it because I'm not going to explode. And so, that something's come up we can't do, we don't, I'm just, whatever the situation is, I have given him a safe place, and he doesn't feel abused. And one of the things that sometimes I didn't make him, now I want him to feel defended, even though I may not agree with him. So what I have to do is if I want these things, I have to give these things. And the more I give them, just like it's in AA, the more we give, the more we get. The more I put it out, and that's the spiritual axiom. The more I give out, the more that comes back. And the more I give it, the more I get it. And the intimacy grows. And when there's intimacy, when there's conversation and there's communication, the sexuality is fabulous. Because now you're intimacy. And that way, when we go to the bedroom, we're safe. and we can talk, and we're not frustrated and don't feel abused. Okay, let's go to tradition 1. Tradition 1. Our common welfare should come first. A healthy relationship depends upon unity. And Dave and I are a partnership. And that partnership is unity. And it's just like in our AA groups. If we don't have the first tradition, we don't have anything. The first tradition is, in order for us to be a group in Alcoholics Anonymous, in order for us to hold together, we need the glue of unity, that we're going in the same direction and we want the same things. Other words, we want this relationship to work. We want to be in this relationship. So there are a lot of things Dave and I have had to learn. We both are alcoholic. And the good news is for the past 28 years, both of us haven't been alcoholic on the same day that much. And that's been a really good thing. And it just seems like when one of us are really alcoholic, the other one is pretty good. But there have been days when we've both been alcoholic. And sometimes when that happens, you just have to, decide to have a truce and go to, in different directions. But what we want, the main thing is we want it to work. We want to be in this relationship, and we want the unity. And Dave and I, not everybody does this because there's different people who have businesses and such, but Dave and I have one bank account. Now that's not always the way it is, but that's the way we are. But it works however it works for you. But for us, we have one bank account. So that means that we have to be considerate of how we spend the money. I mean, he just doesn't get all his toys, and I'm going to just sacrifice and be martyred and then resent him. It's that we have to decide. Now, the other thing is that in my first marriage, my husband really didn't care about the furniture and the house and all of that. Well, Dave does. He cares a lot. In fact, I was still working in Southern California, and Dave had moved to Washington, and he's the one who supervised the building of our house and chose all the lighting and chose all the coloring and everything. And at the time, he's telling me what he's doing, and I'm like, oh my God. And he would send me emails about, this is the sink I'm looking at, and I mean, he was so considerate. And what happened is I'm kind of like plain. I'm the kind of beige, gray kind of person. Dave likes color. Well, today I have on some color, but he likes color. And he was talking about, painting one of the bedrooms with gold with a red ceiling. And I'm like, well, he did that, and it looks great. So I had a lot of contempt prior to investigation. And he's saying, if you don't like it, I'll change it. And but I do like it. So, other words, we just bought some new living room furniture, some sofas. And it wasn't just you go pick it out. I mean, he has a lot of say in what we do. So what we have to do is we have to become unified, and we have to say, do we both want this? And if we don't, we have to go and find something we do both want. So we need unity, but it begins, we need the unity first, and that we both want in this relationship. Okay, for tradition 1, we've got a checklist, and you can get this on the internet. What am I willing to sacrifice for our relationship? I'm just about willing to sacrifice anything I have except my sobriety. I'm willing to take a look at it because I really love Dave. And a lot of times, the main thing I have to sacrifice, and what happens is, once I do, and have another perception, it's good. And that sacrifices, most of the time I have to change my opinion. That's what I usually have to change. And a lot of times, I like it when I will listen, I like his opinion better. What effect do my actions have on our relationships and on our family? I need to be aware of how my actions affect Dave and the rest of our family. Am I a giver or a taker? I truly believe because of Alcoholics Anonymous today, I'm a giver. Do I do unifying things, or am I quick to criticize and slow to praise? I want to be unified. Do I use silence as a refuge or punishment while expecting my mate to read my mind? Do I listen when my mate has something to say? Please learn to be a good listener. And the best way to be a good listener is to be a sponsor. That's how I learned to listen. I never listened to my kids or my husband. But in AA, I learned to be a listener by listening to sponsees. Do I admire and approve of my mate? And does he know it? Am I a healing, mending, intricate force in our marriage, or am I decisive? One of the things I think we as alcoholics have to do is watch our negative attitudes. And I certainly need to in my relationship. Am I a peacemaker? Or because of my own insecurity, is it critical for me to always be right? And as an old friend of ours, Dave's past sponsor, used to say, what do you want to be? Do you want to be happy or do you want to be right? Can I be flexible? Just because I have this plan doesn't mean it has to be, in cement. Am I flexible? Can I change? Can I go from one thing to the other? What must my mate do to accommodate my insecurity? Does Dave have to look a certain way, act a certain way in order to make me feel comfortable? Or do I have to? Do I try to be understanding when my mate rubs me the wrong way? And boy, I'll tell you what, that one has taken a lot of years. But both of us kind of use an Al-Anon statement when that kind of thing happens, and that is, you could be right. Do I sneak around and do things that I don't want my mate to see? And Dave and I just have this philosophy that I can't do anything he can't see. Okay, tradition 2. It's your turn.
I know. Tradition 2 is our group for our group purpose, for our relations purpose. There is but one ultimate authority, a loving God, as He may express Himself in our group conscience. Each of us is God's trusted servant, neither governs. My parents were mature adults in 1936 when I was born. And the family model was quite different then. The family model then was that there were few of the conveniences that we have today. Mothers typically stayed at home, took care of children, cooked, washed, and all these things were much more difficult then than they are now. We didn't have the automatic appliances and so forth. The fathers in most families at that time went to work every day. In addition, there was a great worldwide economic crisis going on along about that time. There were places in the world that were unsettled. There was a lot of unrest. There was a lot of conflict beginning to erupt around the world. And it was just a different world. And in the world that I grew up in, what I saw being raised was my father being paid a lot of deference because he went to work all day. There was generally, I don't recall that much regard for what women had to do. In my life, women have always worked harder when I was growing up than men ever did, and it was so taken for granted that I never even noticed. Right or wrong, good or bad, that's the way it was. The world is quite different today. You know, it is typical. A typical family model today is that both parents work. Children are in daycare. It is amazing to me how much my two boys participate in household life. They change diapers. When my children were little, I was expected not to get involved in that because I was clumsy and stupid and a man, and I didn't have enough sense. No, that's being unkind. That's not really true, but I was not capable. Let me put it, capable of adequately and correctly changing a diaper. Or, I mean, I remember my first wife, when I was very young, would get her mother to come over and watch our children while she went to the grocery store because I shouldn't be left alone with them. You know, it's like it would irritate me, or I wouldn't be attentive enough, or whatever. You know, I'm just some guy. And these old things, you know, when you are a small child and you learn things like that at home and you don't question them, or you're not allowed to question them, why things are the way they are, you grow up with all that stuff in your head, and it's almost as though you were genetically endowed with those attitudes and those outlooks. And we have to change with the times because, you know, I mean, this goes from generation to generation. So now it's very different. Men are not the boss anymore. You know, they are on a co-footing most of the time with their wives and with females. It is. I mean, we have things now that were absolutely unheard of when I was a little boy, and that was, you know, a man stay home and take care of the house while a woman works. Well, that's, you know, I mean, that was tantamount to being emasculated. You know, you just don't do that. So we have to remember that there is only one authority in our relationship, and that's the loving God as he chooses to express himself. And we have to learn how to subjugate our egos to God and let him do what he does best. Stay out of his way so that he can do what he does best, and that is guide his children. And sometimes you see relationships where one person is the dominant figure in a relationship, and there is a constant struggle for who's the boss. You know, like Polly and I used to laugh about this, but you know, I used to go around saying, "Listen, I'm the boss, applesauce," and you know, just goofing off. But we both thought it was funny because I so clearly was not the boss. I mean, you'd have more luck herding cats than being her boss. And sometimes one person or the other will like to be dominated to the extent that they don't make any of the decisions and all that because they don't ever want to be wrong. You know, if the wheels come off, pal, it's your fault. You're the guy in charge. Don't look at me. I didn't do anything. And so we have all these different things that we do, but the thing here is that I have to really look at who I am and where did I come from, and what ideas am I packing around that I'm not even aware of day to day, minute by minute, and how well do those ideas serve me now? You know, am I walking around? See, I remember we used to do all these things for my father, like have his dinner ready at the right time every day when he came home from work. We would do special things for him at Christmas and all that, and it's like the father was very revered in the home, in the typical home, and you don't see that very much. Not nearly as much as it was present in my life. And if I'm holding on to those old ideas and I expect that to happen for me, this is all my stuff. This is stuff going on up here. Doesn't have anything to do with her. You know, you can pick her up and replace her with any other female you want to. That crap is still going on in my head. And it has nothing to do with her. It has nothing to do with my marriage. It has to do with me. And I have to change my ideas about how the world is and how it operates and what is contemporary in the world. What do we all accept in the world? What are the de facto rules in the world? And so acceptance plays a large part in this. And being willing to change. Being flexible. And you have to know you need to be flexible before you have any energy for being flexible. So you need to get in touch with, what does our book say? It says we had to let go of all of our old ideas. The result was nil until we let go of all of our old ideas. And we pack these old ideas around and don't even know we have them. We're not consciously aware that they're affecting our behavior, our outlook on the world, on our lives, on anything. So I think that's what this is all about here. For our purpose, there's but one ultimate authority, a loving God, as He may express Himself to both of us. We talked about things that would give you a life of chronic frustration, like being in control and knowing everything, and having to know everything, and having to keep score and being judgmental. If you're, there are times when I am absolutely certain that Polly's wrong about something. I mean, I don't suspect that she's wrong. I know she's wrong. With metaphysical certitude. And if I insist on having my way, if I insist on her admitting that she's wrong, could that turn into a fight? Oh, yeah. No kidding. And we've all been there. And a lot of the times, I absolutely insist on not giving up, and I am absolutely convinced that I am right to within 500 milliseconds of finding out I'm dead wrong. And so, this is a real trap, and my caution is that I had to learn for myself, and that Polly has learned for herself, is don't make it hard on people to be honest with you. Don't make them pay a heavy price to be honest. Don't be explosive and retaliative. Don't be worried about retribution and all that. You'll be sorry you challenged me. Don't make it easy for people to be honest with you. Make it easy for people to tell you how they feel. Don't charge a high price for that, because it can only build a wall between you and whoever you're doing that with. They're not going to come to you with anything. If you're going to blow, if you're going to desperately cling to all your character defects and your old ideas and all that stuff, if you're going to desperately cling to those, they're going to let you have them. They won't. They'll give up trying to tear them out of your arms. They'll just let you have them. So there's a checklist here. Do I insist on being the leader? Do I feel like it is my place to govern? That's where I grew up. I had to abandon that. I had to get rid of it. It's just not. It not only doesn't work. It's not ever gonna work. It is never gonna work. On top of that, I don't want it to work. I want her to feel like we're in this together. Not that I'm the big cheese. I mean, do I try to speak for her without consulting her? No, that's not one of my problems. But a lot of people have those problems. Do I criticize my mate or do I trust her? The real question is, am I trustworthy? That's the real question. Not is she trustworthy? Am I trustworthy? Does she love me? I don't know. Don't ask me. Ask her. She's the one that knows the answer to that question, not me. I have my own opinion and my own feelings about that, and my answer is absolutely. I believe that to my bones, but that's really her question. Am I absolutely trustworthy? Try this little prayer sometime. See if this will make your sphincter oscillate. God, treat me tomorrow the way I treat Polly today. Scary, huh? Yeah. Or how about, God, help me not do anything today that I can't tell Polly about tonight. Is my ego so strong that I have to have credit for more than I do? Am I so insecure? Does my ego demand to be fluffed up with praise for everything I do? With praise and laudatory reactions to everything I do. Men like to be knights in shining armor. I mean, that is a myth that we have all grown up with for our entire lives. And, and I want somebody that Polly looks up to, I want to be somebody that Polly looks up to and admire, So here's the thing. If you want people to respect you, you have to be respectable. If you want people to love you, you have to be lovable. If you want self-esteem, you have to do esteemable things. Thinking esteemable thoughts won't get the job done. It is who you are and what you do that determines how you are treated for the most part. Do I do my share in our relationship? Do I do my share? Again, that's Polly's question. If you ask me, I'm going to say yes. It's important that we both feel that way. What is she going to say if you ask her if I do my share? Does the thought of God being in charge of our relationship cause me any discomfort, or do I like and rely on that idea? I am so very comfortable with God and God being in charge. It took me a long time to get there, to where I feel better knowing that He's looking over my shoulder, believing that He's looking over my shoulder. That is one of the best things that has happened to me, is that I really believe that God loves us, that He enjoys us, and that He wants us to enjoy Him. I really believe that. And so I feel better knowing that He looks over my shoulder, because he's not the narrow-minded little pipsqueak that I was taught about when I was a little boy. He is a beautiful, loving Creator. And so that's number 2. We're going to take a break now, and then we'll come back and finish him up.